everybody, just checking you can hear me. Sorry for the delay in getting... Oh, I'm not delayed actually. I just had to change a few things around. So welcome to the paint along. If you don't already know me, I'm Julie Ford. And these live paint alongs are very much a bit of chill and relaxed time. Nothing too strenuous, beginner friendly watercolour. And I try and keep it simple. So you can either paint along or you can watch and come back to it later. So this is the picture that we're doing tonight. These were photo of geraniums that I took in Italy last year. I'm just going to check in the chat that you can all hear me. Right, I'm getting a thumbs up, so that looks good. You can hear well. Brilliant. All right, I'll check back here every so often. And I need to just make sure that everything's in the picture, which is looking like it is. I'll get rid of that. Move that over a bit. So I've got my mixing palette in view this time. And hopefully you've got a couple of pots of water. I don't have many brushes. You can manage with just a couple of rounds. I've got a rigger or two. I've got 3 size rounds. I have this little square brush. I'm probably not going to use it. I have my pencil, and I don't actually think I've got an eraser with me today. And I have a pen, a Micron waterproof pen, but that is entirely up to you at the end if it's something you'd like to add in. But I definitely have my 2 pots of water, one for washing my brush and one for keeping my water clean. So I wash my brush and then go into the next colour. So hopefully you can see that. It's a bit difficult for me to see though, like that. So you should have your own copy of the photograph. My printer's run out of ink, so I couldn't print it. Oh, there we are. You can just about see that, can't we? And what I've done in the past, which you're still welcome to do to transfer your picture onto your page, is used chalk on the back of this. But you might not have chalk. So what I suggest you do is, if you don't have chalk, just put in some of the key. If you've printed it out A4 and you're working on A4, you can literally put in some of the key lines at each edge and kind of work from there. It's a very simple drawing, but I am actually going to put chalk on the back and transfer it like that, because chalk just rubs off afterwards, so I won't have pencil lines. You can use soft pastels to do this really easily, but they will leave... Chalk rubs off, soft pastels will dissolve when you put water on them, so make sure you use a colour that's going to blend in or disappear into your picture. And I'm not actually even bothered about the trees in this. If all you do is transfer the pot, you can literally paint the rest of it quite easily. So I'm going to place my picture down, and then I'm going to trace over my picture. I'm just checking there's no comments. That looks all right. So it's my pot really that I want to make sure is accurate. If I don't want to spend ages drawing it all out, we'll do it like this. There's a shadow here, make sure you get it in, and then it's sitting on top of a wall. This is my pot, back of the pot. I want to try and keep some light on the back of the pot. There's just a little glint of light around the edges. So you can, if you want, protect it with some masking fluid. I'm not going to, for the sake of time, because I'm not sure it will dry quickly enough. Doesn't matter exactly what shape your flowers are, because you can make them up. And then my skyline is basically going to go right the way across here. And then I just want some rough peaks and troughs for my trees. Very, very rough. I like pictures that don't involve a huge amount of drawing, because it gives you more time to paint. Right, let's just check. Yeah, see, that's pretty okay for me. I can see that. So while I'm waiting, if you're sort of still doing it, there's a rim along here. Just going to put in a few of the key lines. These will be painted over anyway, so they won't show too much. Now what happens here? There's actually a bit of a rim around this edge, that's why. That's it. That's not straight. So I didn't talk about the colours, but basically you don't need many colours for this. I've got a warm yellow. In fact, I might need a little bit more of that. So I've got a warm yellow and what I call a cool yellow, which is this lemon. I've got a cadmium because I want to make more of these flowers, so a cadmium red, and then I've got an alizarin or a quinacridone rose for a cool red. I have got a couple of greens on this palette, but I'm perfectly happy to make my greens with my yellows and 2 or 3 blues. So I've got an ultramarine, I've got a cobalt, I've got a turquoise. I don't have a cerulean on here, but I've got a turquoise. And then I've got a burnt sienna, a burnt umber, a raw umber, and a yellow ochre. You probably don't need all of those, but just, I was going to say bear with me while I top up my warm yellow, but I think I might have to find it out of something else. Bear with me. I might have enough, but I might run short. This is actually a Meaden set, and I use this for a lot of my teaching, and it's got some nice colours in actually. So it's this warmer yellow that I'm looking for. They're very reasonably priced, and I do wonder if there are inks in them, but they do behave like watercolours, but because of their price I would query that. Anyway, I've got them there. So I'm going to put it over here. So hopefully you've caught up with the drawing. All good? Super. Now, I've got my paper at a very slight angle, just so that the water will run down a little bit. And I've got some paper down here for testing out my colours, which hopefully you can just about see. I'll push that up a fraction. And I think my light is reflecting. Let's move that over a little bit. See if that's better. Got to wait for the lag for it to catch up. Okay, it is actually better for you if I lay this down a little bit. Let's see if that's a little bit less of an angle. I think that's probably a bit better for you. That's it. So hopefully you can see the picture now a bit better. So I'm going to start off with my sky, and it's just going to run all the way down behind my trees. I'll probably do it all the way across and then come back in and do this distance a bit later, because all of this, well, most of this can go over the top, because it's all darker than what's behind. And because I want this to look like it's further away in the distance, this is going to be sort of a bluey mauve, a cool colour, and this will be a little bit warmer coming nearer, but we'll start and see how we get on. So first of all, I'm going to put some water. I'm using quite a big brush. I'm going to put some water on my palette, and I'm going to go, in actual fact, with my cobalt for my sky. Right, and already I've got some colour in my yellow, which isn't great. But I'm going straight on with wet paint. I haven't wet the paper at all, but as I come down, all I'm going to do is dip my brush into my water so that it gets, as it comes down, it fades a little bit, so it's getting more dilute. I'm going to bring that down right to the bottom of my tree. So most of my trees have painted themselves out now, and I just want a little bit less of a line, but I don't, that's it, I mustn't work it any more than that, or I'm going to end up with a lovely what do you call it, lovely cauliflowers. Right, so in the distance I want it to be a bit grayer, so I've used the blue that I've just used. I put a tiny bit of lemon in, and I've used one of my cool reds to make it a little bit more mauvey grey. I want it a little bit more blue than that. So that is probably quite a nice colour for my distant. And my paper's drying a little bit, so I know it's going to run a bit. So I'm going to keep it a little bit lower than my skyline. They look like little trees in the background. I'm going to take that up just a fraction. And as it comes over this side, I want to darken it, but I'm going to just put some water in this and just bring it down, because I don't want the hard edges. That's it. And then where it's gone over some of my bright green leaves, I'm just going to lift that out. And I'm going to lift out a little bit around some of my trees so that I can put some lighter green in there later. Not everywhere. Just lifting out some of the grey. And when I put a wash of green over this, it should mean that some of it will look a little lighter. And I can always go back in again if it's too much. Right, so I'm going to dry up any runs that I've got left. Should do it with a brush, but there we go. And what I'm going to do is leave the background now, and I'm going to start painting down here where it's already drier. So I've got this lemon yellow, and I've got a little bit of my cobalt in it, so it's actually quite a limey green. And I'm just going to put this along here. I'm going to drop a little bit of cobalt into it. Just at the bottom. And I can come back to that later. And there is also a little bit just along here of light. Dry my brush off, pick up a little bit of lemon. And don't forget that your watercolour dries an awful lot lighter. That's it, that's all I'm doing there. Make sure that is all the way up to that. Now, I'm going to come and start on my leaves in the middle. And I want quite a bright mix. I'm sticking with my cobalt and my lemon. So all I'm going to do really is vary the amount of lemon in this. And put some in. I'm going to leave gaps for my flowers. And I want more flowers than are in the picture. And I'm going to paint the dark around this, so I want some of these to kind of stand out a bit. Come down into here. I'm going to leave some gaps in between. You can always paint over them. Always paint over them with some dark. I want these little bits here to look little flicky leaves. I'm going to drop in that little bit of cobalt. I'm going to add in a teeny bit. Oh no, that's much too much. It's very hard to do a teeny bit of that quinacridone rose because it just goes mad. Right, let's try it this way. Let's mix that first and then put my cobalt in. That's a bit better. Right, and I'm just going to drop on the edges of this, not everywhere, mainly in this centre bit. Paint around this so it looks a bit like leaves. I don't want to lose all of my nice bright green. I want some soft and some hard edges. Right, we'll see how that looks in a little while. It's quite dark in here. Perhaps it's very dark in here, so I might. Ooh, it's a scary red. A bit more blue. A bit more red. Too much red. I'm going to drop that in. You never know what's going to happen, do you? Oh, quite like the way that's changing it. Right, it gives me some nice darks. I'm not going to fuss too much about whether it's right or wrong. I'm going to come down and I'm going to start on the wall. So I need to clean this up on my palette. So I think for this, because this is this lovely terracotta colour, and this wall is quite a warm orangey colour. So I'm going to go now with my warm yellow. And into that, I'm going to try a little bit of burnt sienna. That's a nice warm colour. I want that because it's going under here. I think that might be all right. I might want it a little bit greyed out. So let's try it and see, because I can always put a wash over it afterwards. So I want a bit more colour. And I'm just going to go straight across here with this. I want just a smooth wash. So I'm going to pick up that colour at the bottom. I'm just going to add to it. I probably didn't mix up quite enough colour, but I've got quite a good brush, so it holds quite a lot of water. You have to work so fast with watercolour. But I want a bit of shadow under there, so I'm going to come in with a little bit more of my burnt umber, and into that I'm going to add a little bit of my cobalt, and I'm just going to go in with a bit of shadow under the, that's it, and maybe even some marks. That's it. Stop touching. Right, let's see how you all are. Okay. So I'm hopping around a little bit, but that's okay. I'm going to come and paint. Now I'm going to go back up. Let's go back up and do some of this background. So what I'm first going to do is mix up some of that light green that I had. I've already got some colour on my palette that I can mix into. So that was the lemon yellow and a bit of cobalt. And there is, because I've got a bit of burnt sienna running around, it's made quite a nice muted colour. So I'm actually going to initially just put a bit of tree in, because I can paint over this afterwards. And I'm going to paint, yeah, I keep changing the way I'm going to do things, but isn't that what it's all about? It's experimenting. If you see I've done it wrong, you can change it and do it your way. Well, this is just the lighter green that I can see in some of these trees. Because they are much darker. Okay. Some of these. Leave that gap there. What I'm actually going to do is put a wash over this and see what happens to darken down my background. Some of these tall cypress trees. I can put some more in after. I can probably take some out. I get darker over there anyway, so I'm not going to worry too much about over there. Over there. Right. To wait for those to dry. Now my terracotta pot. I want a very light wash of burnt sienna, because I want it to look like the sun's on it. So this is a very thin wash. Maybe a bit more, because it does dry an awful lot lighter. So it's quite a wash, quite a soft wash. But I'm going to go in, hopefully it's all dry. I'm going to go in around my pot. And I'm going to use a little bit of wet in wet. To get some shadows on my pot. I'm going to leave that a little bit there, a bit of white in there. That's going to be much darker. going to paint into some of this. So it should all still be a bit wet. Working really fast. And then I want a darker, so I'm going to put in a little bit of the blue into this. A bit more burnt sienna, a bit more blue, and you can see it kind of makes it into a bit more grey, but I want it darker. So this on this edge. And along here. Under there. I'm going to put some shadows under there anyway. Right. That's my terracotta, not my terracotta pot done, but it's part of it. So now I need a colour that is different for my wall, and it's a bit warmer. So I've put a little bit of that quinacridone in. And at the moment all I'm doing is my light washes. I'm not too fussed if it runs here. I think it just adds a bit to the character. If I've made it too dark, it doesn't matter because I can go in afterwards. Painting right over that so that shadow is enhanced over that edge. There we are. Slightly different colour. Okay. Now where should we go? I think we're going to go put our background in a little bit more. So I think my trees are dry. I'm going to go down a brush size and I'm going to attempt to paint some of that background in. So I'm sticking with the same colours I've had. So I've actually got this burnt sienna with my blue, which gives me quite a nice grey. In fact, I'm going to put a little bit of that quinac rose in. Oh, that might be too mauvey. Let's have a look. I think it might be all right for this side. I'm going to kind of paint in some of this area. Now, don't forget I'm going to go over all of this with some darker paint. But I just want to keep some of that green in places. That slightly different colour as it comes over here. Can warm it up a bit. Put a bit of red in it. A bit of green in it maybe. There we are, slightly different again. And I am leaving little touches of white here and there. We'll see what happens, shall we? Okay. Now in the background, I want to do a blue wash across there, but I want it to be a cool blue. So I have this phthalo, which is, it's quite a dark, it's very, actually phthalo can be really quite dangerous to work with, but I quite like the colour for this, and I'm actually literally going to go right across. That's it, going to go right across my trees in the, here, just with that wash. And it might lift some of the paint, that's fine. But can you see how that kind of looks like it's a bit further in the background? So that should be enough, because as we come down into dark paint, and that's when it gets scary, when you start putting on your really dark colours. Right, how are we all doing? Right. So is anyone painting along with me? Sue normally does. Right, I'm just going to wait and see where you all are. We've got quite a lot of negative painting to do in here, but I think the background colours are okay at the moment. And in fact, I think what I might do, this grey wash that I've done here, I think I might go back in and just put a soft version across some of this. There we are. Just tones them back a little bit. All right, now let's have a look at the pot again, which is nearly dry. I think what I'll probably do then is put some dark. Let's go in and put some dark in here, because it doesn't matter if some of these trees that are still wet begin to run. So I am looking to make a very dark green. So I'm actually going to go with my phthalo that I just had. Look at that colour. And I'm going to add in some of this yellow. So it will go to a really dark forest green, but that is too green. So I'm going to tip, tiny tip of this red, either your alizarin or quinacridone, and it will turn that green into a really good foresty type green. So I am going to start over here, and I am going to try and do some negative painting around these little flowers and things down here. I'm trying to leave some spaces where there might be flowers, but all of this is quite dark. I find negative painting quite difficult to do, so we'll see how it works. So as this goes up, it should blend a little bit. Now I want that completely covered. That's looking okay. You've got to be quite brave with how dark you go. I'm going to go put a little bit more yellow in that, because the tree behind is not quite so dark. And it might run, because my background might still be wet, but that's okay, as long as it's not sopping. This will kind of join up. And I'm trying to work really fast. And I'm probably going to have to go back in again with even darker mixes, because these won't dry that dark, even though they look very dark. There's my phthalo again. My lemon yellow. And lemon yellow, this lemon yellow at least, is a little bit opaque. Just using the tip of my brush. Not very well, but get my I want this to come over the top of that one because it's darker. Now here I need some of of my leaves painted around, because this is very dark around here, so my negative painting. I want my leaves to have cutouts kind of thing. That's it. And in here it's very, very dark, even darker actually, so I'm going to put a little bit more of that red in. It makes a really good dark phthalo and see, it's almost black. Phthalo and quinacridone rose or alizarin. Just draw yourself some leaves and light. Drop some in here. This is much darker. Now, some of that's run. But this should all be really dark at the front. I think we're getting the effect we want, aren't we? Hopefully. Alright, so this one, slightly different shape. See, in here it doesn't matter if your greens are slightly different, because they will be. Okay. I want my very dark. I'll make up a little bit more. A little red. My phthalo blue. Oh, it's so dark. And a little bit of my lemon. Here we are. Really, this is almost blue, this one. But I'm going to put another little tree in here that I didn't paint in initially. It's wiggling. Wiggle, wiggle. And my leaves. Oh, some people are so good at doing negative painting. I'm not particularly. Okay. And all your trees are going to look completely different. But that's what your signature is all about. It's your hand movement, the way you use your brushes. Now, don't forget you have to leave your flowers. Now, I want a softer version of that. It might not necessarily be lighter, but I want it to be more green because I want something in here. Because these kind of do all join up, don't they? Yeah. And that one's got to have something done to it as well. Take it down the middle. All fun, all fun. Now, as we come over, change your green up a little bit. You might even want to put a bit of your warm yellow in, and that will give you a slightly different green. It will give you a more not sagey, sludgy green. It's a good word to describe it, I think. Right, around here, this is where we can paint our leaves. So we've got our negative painting. Now, this comes all the way in here and cuts up here. That's it. I haven't left my white rim, but I should be able to leave some of that light terracotta. If I make the rest of my terracotta dark enough, it will work, she says, hopefully. Right, a bit more phthalo. Can I drop some of that in there? Make that darker. That should bring this forward a little bit. I'm enjoying this one. Maybe it's because there's no water in it for a change. Some of these are darker than others. And this actually comes all the way down to in here. And again, we've got some dark going on. This changes colour slightly as you go along, so let's put a little bit more green in. Green, a bit more of the warm yellow. It's trouble with me trying to think and paint at the same time. Just changing up my colours a little bit. Probably made my trees a bit too high actually, but I don't think it's really going to matter too much. There we are. Right, I think we're getting there. I think once we put the big flowers in, get some red popping, it will look okay. So now I'm just going back into my warm yellow. So it's a bit darker. I'm just painting over this bit now. Hopefully some will look like it's in the foreground and some will look like it's in the background. That's it. And here. Around there. And I might try some wet in wet here, just dropping in some darker colours, because I don't want too much detail everywhere. So these can kind of sort of almost fade away. I don't mind you, it looks like I've just got bored painting them. Okay, let's go back in then. Get some of this looking really dark. That's better. So it should be running still a little bit. So I hope you'll all show me what you've done in my school group. The link's in the description, because it's a little free community, so you can share what you're working on, and it's quite nice. I confess I haven't done a great deal with it yet, but it is my intention to do more with it. Probably will put a paid course in there at some point as well, where it will take longer and take more care. Right, so I want something dark again over this way. I want that to kind of frame this end. It gets very dark down here by the wall. That's one of the things that sets the wall off, isn't it? And also my negative painting around here. Right, so how is this looking? I'm going to stand up and have a look. I think it's probably not doing too badly. Oh, right, might put some flowers in. What do you think? Let's see. Any comments? Oh, Kathy's watching, and then we'll watch the replay later. Always good, because you can learn from my mistakes. Yep, Sue's painting along. Fabulous. It is a different way of working. Makes change from water, doesn't it? So, and I'm quite enjoying it, actually. So where are we going now? I'm going to find a smaller brush, and I'm going to put in, because this should all be, yes, this is all dry. I'm going to put in some of my red flowers. So I want a bit of clean palette. Let's get this clean, because I want to keep my red nice and bright. I don't want it to get it's probably not a cadmium actually, but it's perfectly fine for these. If you've got more of an orange red, maybe I'll put a bit in, a little bit of warm yellow in there will make it into a very nice. I'm going to leave little bits of light on it. And I might paint some more green into it, I'm not sure. So we've got some little bits of red. And I'm going to use some of this Quin pink that we were using to put some darker areas in. And I'm just dropping it wet in wet. So hopefully it will look like we have some light and some dark bits. Okay, I've painted over what was supposed to be my flowers on this side. But I think we got away with it, and I'm going to put a few in here, a couple in here. There we are. Right, so that's really taking shape. So now I'm going to put the dark in there. And I'm going to try and stick with the colours I've used. So I've got, in fact, I'm going to go in with my phthalo and my burnt sienna, and that will give me a nice dark for the terracotta pot. There we are. And that is going to be very, very dark, but I want to leave this lip. I think a lot of the scary stuff with watercolour is painting dark enough. But I know when I look at the paintings I really like, there's a lot of very dark darks in there. Right. That is also, we also have some of that along the bottom here. My hand's not steady enough. That's really bad. Oh dear. my paper has kind of warped, which then means I'm going to try and lift this now. If my paper's warped, my line won't go straight and my hand's not very steady anyway. So if you're on decent paper, you can lift most of that out. We'll come back to that. Ignore that for a minute. Now, burnt sienna, it's my terracotta colour. So where else do we have some of that nice colour? This all needs darkening up. And it's not all one colour. So we need a slightly bigger brush, make sure it's clean. And I can darken that a little bit as we come down. The bottom of the pot is darker. So I can come in with a bit more sienna. And I've darkened it. Oh, you can darken it either with a little bit of blue, or I think I might have picked up a little bit of purple by accident actually. Don't worry. That's looking okay. And we actually have an edge along here. It's a bit better. I got that wrong before. I think I might have got away with it. Don't tell anybody. Right. Blend that in a little bit. That's it. Trying to leave this light bit at the end. This has a slightly darker cast to it. And there is a shadow in that corner that I need to capture. Right. Now this is shadow here. But I want to use my cobalt and my burnt sienna to make that shadow. I'm probably Yeah, that'll be all right. It's actually quite nice and purpley in the picture. So if you can make more of a purple, then do so. And we had a shadow in here, which luckily is fairly dry. Got a bit of dark in here where the pot comes round, and there's a real dark edge along here where the pot meets the tray, and there's a harder edge here which I'm going to have to come back in and paint later, I think, but it's not too bad. Not too bad. That actually comes in there. Take that out. That's the lip. I'll come back in and paint that again in a minute. Oh, it's these little details. So that's not right. There we are. I've got that. My pot's not quite looking right. But... So where are we now? I'm going to stand up, have a look. I'm going to look at your comments. See where we are. What does it look like in the picture on the screen? Oh, probably looks better on screen than it does with you. Oh, thank you, Kathy. Oh, that's just gone out of focus. Why is that? Oh, strange. Right. Okay, just looks a bit fuzzy at my end. I'm going to add some more colour. I think we need some more colour, and I'm going to do a bit of dry brushing. So I've got this red that I used for my flowers. I'm going to put a bit of blue into it and see if I can use it. I want it, see this, what a lovely colour. So I'm going to use that for the side of the wall. There we are, one brush stroke straight across, and then I'm going to attempt a bit of stone dry brushing. Just give it some texture. That's it. So it was looking a bit pale in the picture. Now, I don't know if you can see, but in my picture, that side of the wall is much higher than that side of the wall, so I didn't do that very well. So what I might do is put some dark green in there to hide it, because I can. That's what they call it, don't they? Artistic license. So hopefully, might even be a bit lower than that. There we are. A little bit of cheating. Some of this needs to come down as well. What else do we need? Painting some flower shapes in negative, dark. So it's sort of a dark green. And in here, maybe going over some of these shapes that I added earlier. look a bit more like leaves. And this actually cuts in. Can you see this cuts in even more to make my leaves? Right, not far off, I don't think. I think I need to do another wash of terracotta on my pot. It's not quite dark enough. And I think the lovely thing about watercolour is you can keep glazing colour over colour to build up to what you want. Right. And okay. This needs to be darker as well, my pot. That shadow, which I got so wrong last time. It's because normally I would paint sideways. I can't. That's better. Then there's also an edge here. That's better. That is much more pronounced. There's my terracotta again. Oh. That's better. Do I keep saying that's better? I think I do. That's fine. This must disappear in here, mustn't it? I still want a darker rim. We're nearly there though, aren't we? We're very, very nearly there. How's the time? Oh, an hour. Not bad. I'm working into it while it's still wet, but I don't want to keep working into it. That's the underneath. Now, this is darker along here. So I'm going to go back in with that mauvey wash that I had. But I'm going to put a little bit of my blue into it to make it a bit grayer. And I'm going to make this darker. And I think that actually is a good colour because it is the colour I've just used on this wall, so it should be this colour to put this shadow in with. That's it, that probably harmonises it a little bit better now. Right, one more thing. I'm going to try it. I don't want you to until you've seen if it works for me. But I want my flowers to be a little brighter. So I'm going to try a little bit of white I can actually use it like gouache and paint over some areas. And I think I'm going to call that done. So, let's see how everybody's doing. Oh, Sue, thank you. Super. I know it's difficult in the evening if it's dark where you are. It is here, but I've got some big studio lights. Oh, Kathy, thank you. That's really nice of you. Oh, you're from Nottingham. Lovely. So, if you do it, please do share what you've created in my school group. It's free to join. I've just noticed that my flowers over this side, it looks like it's going to be a bit lopsided, so I might just go in and tidy a little bit of that up. But I'll leave this running for a little while in case you're still catching up. And thank you so much for following. If you've enjoyed it, do give me a thumbs up, do give me a follow, do subscribe, because it all helps to get my stuff shown to other people. And I really enjoy doing the Wednesday night chill session, so I hope you'll join me next time. Thanks everybody.